We have a problem to solve, and even if you're not into time trial bikes, stick around because this is a great conversation around bike fitting. It just so happens to involve these two bikes. And a little bit of backstory. So both these bikes belong to the same rider, very talented and committed time trialist. You might remember this bike, we featured it on the channel when we first built it, and this is the rider's sort of older spare bike that they ride on as well, do most of their training on. And the bones of this video is this rider had a very technical fit from a physiotherapist who's well renowned in time trial circles. And the result of that fit was this sort of praying mantis position where their arms are quite close to their face in the riding position. And to get that position needs quite a lot of like custom parts, so we might see these aluminium wedges in here and all sorts. In fact, when the rider first had this fit done on this bike, it came to us actually in pieces because they'd used all sorts of weird and wonderful 3D printed plastic parts, and the rider understandably had pretty much ripped one of the extensions off, and it wasn't a pretty sight. So our first job with this rider was to try and get that position from that physiotherapist safe again to ride, and we did that as best we possibly could. The result from that was that we got commissioned to build this bike to be as close as possible to those fit, which we did. We built this bike and we put that onto the video. We showed you all the details about all the various wedges and customizations we did to try and get this bike, which is going to be his race bike for the year, up to that position, which again was a pretty challenging thing to do. It's not as easy as just putting in spacers, and we had to really change extensions and all sorts of stuff. So the next part of this problem, so we've had that fit, is that this rider has now had the opportunity to go down to Silverstone, take some time in the wind tunnel there and really work on their aerodynamics. And what came out of that was fairly interesting. One, they tried loads of different helmet designs and just how you hold your body up, which is fantastic. But the result from that was that they recommended dropping the saddle height by 1 centimetre. That's one thing. And actually, if you were to drop your saddle height by 1 centimetre, how would you feel about that? I'll come back to that in a second. Drop your handlebars by 1 centimetre. Again, quite a lot, even if you're a road biker. And if I drop your handlebars by 1 centimetre, I think there will be some raised eyebrows. And then move your handlebars forward by 1 centimetre as well. So essentially taking on a bit more of an aero, lower, more aggressive position, which, I don't know, did that need a wind tunnel to tell you? Anyway, our problem is we're sort of stuck in the middle. We are the practical bike fitters, if you like. We've taken the ideal from the physiotherapist and then tried to make that safe, and now we've got the parameters from an aerodynamicist to say make this aero. And actually we've got a fourth element as well, because this rider has been training next door with one of our strength and conditioning coaches, Vicky, and they've been really working on their strength and their mobility. And so yeah, our dilemma is, if we were to make this more aggressive, has the rider actually got the core strength, the mobility to ride it? Does it still pay homage to the initial fit from the physiotherapy and what we think the rider can do in terms of their general body health? The aerodynamic fit is not ride tested at all. It was only a couple of minutes in the wind tunnel, so we've got no idea if the rider can hold that much more aggressive position for 10 miler, 25, 50, who knows? But our dilemma is we've got to do quite a lot of work to get that position right. It's not just a case of taking some spaces out. There's quite a lot to do. So for instance, on this one, we've started the process and we've put on a longer stem that's also got a more of a negative degree angle as well to try and get the base bar to where we want it to be. But that's left us with the extensions here are still wrong. These are still roughly in the right places, the end of the extensions, but these are now a little bit on the low side. So we need to sort of somehow raise these up, but still maintain the angle there. This bike, to try and get it into the same position, is significantly harder. It's not impossible. The nice thing about Argon 18 frames is that this section here around the head tube, it's not actually headset spaces, it's actually like an extension of the frame that you press fit in, and then the bearing goes on top of that. So we can replace this, and we have all the parts for that to drop this down. It's a fairly labour intensive job, and because of how the aero stem is, we don't really have the luxury of being able to add spacers on top of this stem like you would do normally. So we need to make decisions about where we cut things even. The extensions here aren't going to work. They're too much of an aggressive angle now, so we need to find some different extensions that are going to work. And of course that all needs internally routed out. So you sort of mean there's quite a lot of work to be done to achieve the position that we don't even know is going to be viable or not. So yeah, what do you think? I'm going down the route of we make this bike as close as we can to the aerodynamic fit. We leave this bike alone as much as possible, but start to put some quotes and some ideas together about how we're going to achieve it. And we do some actual field testing in that aero position and start that rider feedback. You see, my bike fitting philosophy is you have to do the plan, do, review. Like a 200-pound bike fit where you sit on a turbo trainer for a few minutes at a time and adjust things is no good, because anyone can sit on a turbo trainer with a good strong core, hold a good body posture. That's fine. What we want to know is what happens after 10, 20, 30 miles when you start to relax and you start to get tired. Can you still breathe? Can you still move your diaphragm? You know, are you still engaging your glutes? All those sort of things. Is your neck getting sore? Because in these positions, that aero positioning, we've now got to bring the head much further up. And can the rider actually sustain that for the length of time? And does all the additional soreness then influence performance, which I think it probably would. So yeah, there we go. I hope that was a good little chat about all the dynamics of a bike fit. It is definitely not as simple as going to a bike fitter and sitting there and paying 200 and something quid, expecting one person to know it all. This bike fit is a combination of a bike mechanic and our knowledge of, you know, all the equipment and how we're actually going to achieve that fit, a physiotherapist and their biomechanics, an aerodynamicist, and a strength and conditioning coach who has been working with this athlete on their strength and mobility to try and get more comfortable in a more aero position. Quite a big subject. Well, I hope that was interesting and useful. And as always, I am super keen on your comments on this one. And yeah, if you're a bike shop owner, what would you do in this situation? I'm always keen to learn. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Take it easy.